Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Science of Mind class. I'm Dr. Petra. Huge thank yous to Dr. Tracy for being here for the last 2 Sundays. And as many of you know, I'm going on my traditional month of August off, and it's all things CSLDallas under the guidance of Dr. Tracy Brown, the month of August. So she'll be here on Sunday mornings. And Dr. Tracy and friends will be doing our celebration. All kinds of special things. Some folks from our community, all kinds of special things going on, so you do not want to miss it. But I always love knowing that Tracy's here with you guys for the Science of Mind class as well. All right, so we are on page 418 and 419. As we are wending our way through the general summary, I was just noticing, like, well, we're getting there. We're getting there. Only a few more pages. And so one of the things I want to remind you of is that any time that you feel like you are getting confused, is this a science of mind, or you find you're reading a lot of books, or you're hearing from a lot of different, teachers and things like that, the general summary, this general summary at the end, really just covers the whole book in miniature. And it's a great reminder. It's a great place to go back to and just say, okay, I just kind of want to go back to the basics. And the general summary is a great place to go. All right. So I want to go to the towards the bottom of page 418. This paragraph that starts with ignorance. Ignorance stays with us until the day of enlightenment, until our vision toward the Spirit broadens and casts out the image of a no longer useful littleness. Okay, I would support you in just putting that on your mirror. A no longer useful littleness. Good morning, come on in. Our no longer useful littleness is that belief that we are separate, that we are unable, incapable, that we are not able to do what we need to do or have the experiences we want to have, and that somehow we are hoping, wishing, pleading, wanting something out there to fix it for us. Get it together and fix it for us, right? Yeah. So and I love this. So our vision toward the Spirit broadens. So what takes us out of this no longer useful littleness is a vision toward the Spirit that is enlarged, right? And what that enlarging is a larger experience of the nature of spiritual reality. Not just a being, but the nature of reality as a whole. And that all of this beauty here and all of this is an outpicturing of that. And that includes us. We're a place where the infinite is waking up. We're the place where love is showing up. We're the place where life is seeking to express itself. And it is our littleness that keeps us in our circumstances and situations. And what is that littleness based on but ignorance? Now, this is not ignorance like you ignorant fool. This is ignorance, which means, what does ignorance actually mean? Not knowing. Not knowing, right? Not knowing. So there's nothing pejorative about it. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It doesn't mean that, right? It simply means that we don't know. And we don't know what we don't know until all of a sudden we explore something, learn something, find something out, are exposed to something. And then how we really know it is that we begin to experiment with it, right? That's why it's called the science of mind. So we begin to experiment with the idea that, we're the place where the universe is waking up, which means that we actually, utilize the same creative process that the universe and spirit uses to create this. We're utilizing that same creative process to create our own lives and our own life experience. And it is our ignorance of these facts and of this of a broader understanding of spirit that shifts us out of this place of feeling limited, feeling victimized, feeling helpless, feeling powerless, and all of those things. What we now experience, we may cease experiencing if we have the will and the imagination to set our vision in an opposite direction and hold it there. Easier said than done. Way easier said than done, right? What we are now experiencing, we may cease experiencing if we have the will, right? And that the will is not like I'm going to will it to happen. The will is the mental muscle we have to stay focused. That's all the will is. And that's a lot, right? And our ability to, each time we find ourselves drifting over in ain't it awful, or this is never going to work, or oh my God, I don't know how this is going to come out, right? Our will is the muscle that we use to refocus on the truth. Spirit is present, life is for my good, the universal law responds to me, right? That's what our will does, is it's that mental muscle that refocuses and holds our attention on what we actually want instead of what we don't want. Because that's what we tend to do. We tend to focus on all the things that are wrong, all the problems, all the issues, right? So I always hate it when I'm reminded of the fact that I'm not practicing. And so, yeah, I really astonishingly, seriously have to, be reminded. We always end up in conversations about relationships and about prosperity, usually, because those are the places where we're often struggling the most. And and years ago, I remember having conversations. Actually, since the time I got into Science Mind, the thing I did was whine about my relationships. Right. Well, first of all, my picker was broken. Like, I was picking out of my childhood, trauma. But then I was really good at focusing on, what that person needed to fix. If they could just listen to me, then we'd be good. We'd be good. So, of course, I grew up in a very, 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 very critical household. Very critical household. And so what did I learn to do? Criticize. And I learned to criticize myself, and I didn't like that. So then it was much easier to criticize others. Super much easier to criticize others. And then it would be astonishing to me that the relationship wouldn't get any better. Right? So, and so I remember at one moment going, wait, I practice this stuff. Wait, I'm supposed to be like, but I'm not doing it here. I'm not doing it here. And so I stopped, I changed focus on the other person, light bulb moment, right, onto myself. Imagined not being critical. No, I'm not. That was the one thing. Because spirit is not critical. Life is not critical. Life is forever just expressing and loving and being and doing and itself, pouring it out. So if I'm in alignment, if I have a broader understanding, if my vision towards spirit broadens, and how life works and how it's supposed to be and how I'm in alignment with that, right? Using my will and seriously really working on stop doing that. It was amazing how magically that other person got better and straightened up. which is, of course, right? I was no longer focusing on all of that. And everything eased and everything shifted, and I was actually more pleasant to myself, right? I liked my own company more. It was this miraculous realization and experience. But that's what that means. If we have the will and the imagination to set our vision. So my vision was to be a person who was in a relationship where I was not constantly trying to fix whatever I thought was fixable or needed to be fixed, and like poking at it, and was imagining actually being focusing on what was working, focusing on what I liked, focusing on the things that were going well, and all of that. And it was really extraordinary. Now that relationship ultimately did not, I mean, it had its length of time, which was a pretty good length of time, and then that relationship was over. But my experience of it was so completely different, because I was the one, right, who used the will to imagine a different vision and to hold it in place. That's the other piece, is we don't hold it in place long enough. And that doesn't mean that if you have a moment where you go back to looking at it the old way, that, it's sunk now. No, it just means it's a practice, right? It's a practice. We keep going back to, no, this is what I want to be paying attention to. No, this is what I want to be imagining. No, this is where I'm going to place my attention, right? And we come back to it and back to it and back to it and back to it. And of course, neuroscience tells us what we're doing is building a new groove in our consciousness, in our brain, and then that becomes easier, and holding it in that place becomes easier. Our ability to imagine it becomes easier, whereas before, when we first started, we might have been like, yeah, well, that's never going to happen. And so we're just building that space over and over and over and over again. So, and that's another place then of our ignorance. We don't know how powerful our causal intention is, especially in our very highly psychologized culture today. I mean, we constantly tend to go to a psychological understanding of what's going on, and a psychological engagement with people and with ourselves. And I'm a fan of therapy. I've been in and out of therapy since I was 13. It's absolutely wonderful to do that work, but to ultimately heal things in our consciousness and to find that new place to stand, right? The spiritual turn is what cements it in. And again, we can be ignorant of the fact that we need that spiritual move, which is that broader vision of spirit, and which includes ourselves. It's a broader vision of ourselves. We move away from being broken into being whole. We move away of needing constantly to be fixed into, really what I have to do is remember the truth, right? That's the spiritual turn that really begins to cement it in. And if we're ignorant to that, we can, in fact, we can do a lot of good work in therapy and in things like that, but it can feel like it's sort of never ending. So it is, okay, so this is, we just talked about this. It is the office of the imagination to set the vision, right? To imagine a healthy relationship, to imagine a life that is filled with peace, to imagine the healing of the national issues that we face, to imagine a chosen family that actually loves us, as opposed to our current family, our blood family that maybe thinks we're, that we don't belong. All of those kinds of things, our imagination begins to vision it first, and then the will should hold it in place until the creative genius of the inner life transforms. Until the creative genius of the inner life transforms the image of limitation and transmutes it into liberty under the law. I mean, every sentence is jam-packed, right? Jam-packed. The will should hold the imagination in place, the vision in place, until the creative genius of the inner life. Do you see it's not out there? It's not, oh, I've convinced spirit to see it differently. The work is all here. Don't you just hate that? It's like, couldn't somebody just... I used to go to my mentor minister and I'd, just tell me what to do. And he'd be like, it's right there, Peter. It's all here. The work's all here, right? But it's the inner life that gets transformed. It's our ignorance that gets transformed. It's our ability to imagine something that gets transformed. It's our understanding of the nature of reality, which is that broadened vision of spirit that gets transformed. Our recognition of who and what we are in relation to this reality. All of that gets transformed. And then it's where we are coming from in our lives is what shifts so dramatically. Right? We're coming from an entirely different place. And what is that entirely different place? We are no longer coming from a no longer useful littleness. I love that. A no longer useful littleness, right? All the ways we're taught, don't brag, don't shine your light, who do you think you are, and what do you blah, 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 right? And we take all that on. And we truly do actually we have trauma in our lives, we can live in marginalized situations. I mean, all of that's real. It's a real condition, but it's not the truth of our being. Right? And so we're shifting from that outer reality, that outer vision of life that we've taken on, to the creative genius of the inner life transforming the image of limitation and transmutes it into liberty under law, right? Under the spiritual law, under the creative process, the spiritual laws of how life unfolds. And so, so I mean, this is so fundamental, the work. This is where so much of the work is done. It's our ability to imagine something beyond what we're experiencing, different than we're experiencing, our willingness to stay true to it. I've worked on some things for 5, 8, 10 years because they're that deeply ingrained, they're that, right? I mean, I can manifest a thing in a nanosecond, but we know that we want more than just the things. It's not just, we manifest things because, yeah, we like them. It also teaches us that we can use the creative process, right? Which is really powerful. Look, well, if I can manifest a thing, I can manifest a life, and right, and so we translate that experience into now the deep work of manifesting us actually being in alignment with who we are, and I think of it as removing the veils that we have taken on, that we've been taught, and some of them, truthfully, are also embedded in our biology, threat, fight or flight, are we safe, is it all right, all of that is also, we have to in our ignorance, we think that's the way to live in the world. And when we have that broader vision of spirit, it shifts us into an entirely different way of living in the world, because we know what's really going on. And we're living from the spiritual truth of our being, as opposed to from the human false limitations, or quite frankly, just from our biology, which is constantly wanting us to be safe, looking for the threat. Do I have to fight it? Do I have to run away? Should I freeze so nobody can notice me? Right? Which is all part of our the evolution of simply this particular vehicle into which spirit has poured itself. So, 20 minutes on a paragraph. That's how rich it is, right? I love it. So we're going to stop here, and I want to stop and talk about this or explore this for a little bit. So where's the catch for you? Is the catch for you in your ability to imagine, vision something? Is the catch for you in your ability to hold the will steady? Right? What can we do to talk about how do we more deeply take this up, more fully engage with it? Or maybe you have a way that really helps you stay steady on your vision, keep your will focused. What practices might you be using that you could share? Or where's the rub in this? Because this is where we do so much of our work. And let's see if we can't help each other and find another step along the path. So we're going to turn it over to Ryan. We're going to say hello to everybody who's online. We have a lovely group here in the room. And good morning, Ryan.
Hey, Petra. Good morning.
Good morning.
We all had a party here last night for our friend Lainey, so apologize if I'm a little slow today. But I want to say hi, hello, everybody here in the room. I'm the guy with the voice online, but now you see me in person. And welcome to those who are joining us on the Zoom room and also on Facebook Live. We love having you here. We have people from all over the world joining us today, so I really appreciate that. Make sure to say hello and check in. Tell us where you're watching us from.
Yay, we love that.
Last week we had some folks from Poland in there. It was really lovely. Anyways, so this is an engaging discussion. This is not just a Petra lecture or a Science of Mind book study. This is where we get down and dirty into the questions. And there's a number of ways that we do that. So for the folks here in the room, you just go ahead and raise your hand, and the iconic Richard over here will help this side of the room with a microphone, and I will help on this side of the room with a microphone. And just please state your name so the folks online can hear you and hear your question. And for those who are joining us in the Zoom room, you can hit the raise your hand icon located down below, or you can always leave your questions and comments inside the chat, and I can bring it into the room. And for the folks on Facebook, go ahead and leave your questions inside the comments, and I'll bring that into the room as well. Yay. And for those who want to remain anonymous, please go ahead and put your questions in there, since I do not say your name. Duh, duh, duh. So, do we have anybody here in the room who'd like to? Oh.
Right behind you there.
Easy peasy. Here you go. Please just say your name.
Hi, my name is Tammy.
Hi, Tammy.
So, okay, I'll ask the question, and I'll just ignore the fact that my brain thinks it already knows the answer.
Okay. Sometimes that's a good thing to do.
So let's say you have a desire in place that you would like. And this desire or desires have been there for a while, and you think you're holding the vision, let's say. You assume that to be so. Is there such a thing as you have to wait? And I don't believe we teach divine timing in Science of Mind, in terms of this isn't happening because it's not the time, or you have cycles of life, or like what, and this may be too big of a question, what possibly could be happening to where you're not seeing the desire that you would like to have out pictured? Is there like because you can even say, I would like this in a month, or I would like for this to happen, this, etc., and I see it happening there, and then it's like, what the heck happened? Does that make sense?
Of course, Tammy.
Okay.
And it's a great question. The challenge with it is that the answer is so individual. We think of the universal law of cause and effect as like a billiard ball, right? We line up the cue ball, we line up the thing that we're doing, we're going to hit the cue ball with our intention, the cue ball is going to hit that other ball and it's going to sink into the pocket. And we think of it as as a sort of very linear thing. The challenge is that it's not that linear and it's not that easy. because we are, in fact, especially when we are not just manifesting something purely for ourselves, there's so much going on around us with other people. And then we have to also recognize that there's a confluence of thoughts, beliefs, and ideas that are running around in our own consciousness. And so one, I love what Michael Beckwith says. He says, delay is not denial. Okay, this has been my experience. And I will tell you, I do not affirm this for anyone, but I will tell you there are things that I've worked on for 5 and 10 years. And we have been enculturated with our Christian background and the fact that we do draw heavily from the teachings of Jesus, that we should be able to manifest instantly. Well, you can manifest a thing pretty quickly, but if we're manifesting like major life changes, major life expression, sometimes that takes time because we have to become on the inside the person who has that life. The work is here, not there. So, yeah. So delay is not denial. I love the fact that I had a woman in a class one time who said, "Oh yeah, I just have my, just got my, the relationship I've been looking for. I've only been working on it for 8 years." And the whole class was like, she said, "Yeah, it took me that long to become the person who could have the relationship with the kind of person I wanted." So she kept doing her treatment for the perfect relationship, and that treatment worked her. Do you see what I'm saying? She was part of the answer to that treatment, because the kind of person she wanted to be with, she was a hot mess. They might come in, but they were going to go pretty quick, which was actually part of her experience, a lot of coming and going, because she had to become the person, right? So there's work on the manifestation outward, there's work on the manifestation inward. Sometimes it doesn't come together, especially when it's a really, and I don't know the answer to that, Tammy. I don't know the answer. There have been things that I have worked on that have not come together, that have big, huge life. So for instance, we had a ministerial training here. It was lovely. We graduated 6 people who are doing amazing work in the world. Is extraordinary. And for whatever reason, we could not maintain the level of students that we needed to maintain to be a satellite of the Denver campus. And so they closed us. It was heartbreaking. I've tried 3 times since then to reopen a ministerial training, and we haven't had enough students. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's a vision I hold. I'm an educator. I love educating from, brand new people into Science of Mind. I love this class. I love educating ministers and everything in between. And I have consistently, over the last 10 years, tried to reopen the ministerial school, and we have not been able to have, we've not managed to have enough students to do that. I don't know why that is. I sit with it until the next moment that the urge comes, try it again. And if in my tenure of being here at CSLDallas, we've only ever managed to open a ministerial training 1 time, I guess I'll be grateful that we were able to do it once. I try not to overly analyze or overly psychologize what's wrong. Why is it not happening? So sometimes that's also the reality of it. Our work isn't a guarantee. It's not. You're more likely, hugely more likely to shift, hugely more likely to have the life of your dreams. But sometimes the things that we want aren't a part of that. And I don't know why that is. Okay, let me also be very, very, very honest. Never Never in my lifetime would I have put my finger on a map and said, I want to live in Dallas. Never. I'm German, I'm a Yankee, I come from the Northeast, I'm a mountain girl. I am a mountain, cool weather mountain girl. And I ended up in Dallas. I ended up in this area. I had a infant son. I was single, newly divorced, had an infant son, and my mother had moved here. And so I had run away from home when I was 15. So at 32, I called her up and said, Mom, can I come home? Will you help me? And she was like, yeah, great, absolutely. So I lived in their house with my stepfather for 3 years. My mother helped with my child, with my son. It was great. I didn't have to put him into daycare from 6 to 6 or anything like that. It was lovely. I went back to school, and I decided that motherhood and ministry don't mix. So I wanted to go on to be a professor. So after I graduated, and umpteen kudos and blah 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 and blah blah blah, and I applied to the 4 or 5 philosophy schools that I wanted to go to, get my PhD, and I wanted it to be in one of these beautiful places, North Chapel Hill, Syracuse, New York, blah blah blah. I did not get accepted to any of them. Okay, I'm a 4.5 student. I wrote this massive thesis that I, defended with distinction. I have, there was no reason for me not to be accepted to one or more of those schools. I didn't get accepted to any of them. In the meantime, I was interim minister here, interim director here. We helped hire somebody. That person only lasted about 2.5 years. I was still here. So they put me back in as interim. I stood on the platform of our old space and I said, stop treating for me to be your minister. Motherhood and ministry do not mix. No. I stood on that platform and said, no, I will not be your minister. That was in 1998. And I have been the senior minister ever since. So much good has come out of that. I would have missed the vision of my life as a minister. I had decided I couldn't do it. So when I finally said, I think it won't let me go, I have to do this, I said, I can only teach 1 night a week, I can only be there 1 Saturday a month, and I have to leave at 2:30 every day because, I have a 4-year-old. And I thought, oh, yeah, they're going to say bye-bye. And they were like, okay. Oh, shit. You were supposed to say no. So here I am. So I spent the first 5 years working on blooming where I was planted. It was not what I expected. It was not necessarily fully my vision, and yet I would not trade it for the world. Nothing. I wouldn't trade it for the world. There was so much of me that was calling to do this work that I didn't actually know. Do you see what I'm saying? And so it's not like Spirit had a plan for me. I fumbled my way into it. And I would not trade 1 iota of it. Some of my practice was dealing with disappointment. In spiritual work, we will be disappointed. And sometimes our practice is to learn how to deal with disappointment. Are we going to keep it little? Is that going to keep us little? Or are we going to allow that to grow us in some way, grow our resilience, grow our ability to see what else there is available? And Tammy, the most important thing about this, and I'll say this to everybody, nobody has the right to tell you you should keep going or, well, you should just accept that it's not going to happen. No one has a right to say that to you. The only person who can say that to you is you. Because only you know how long you are going to commit to stay the course, or when and if you say, it's not coming together, maybe I'm pushing the river, maybe there's something else I want to look at, maybe this is just what's coming up. How do I look for the good and praise it? I mean, that's what I bloom where I'm planted, look for the good and praise it, and CSLDallas took off. And my ministry took off in ways that I could never have imagined, ever, when I stopped resisting that this was actually where my heart and soul and my whole being lies. And I've been doing it since 1998. Most people don't last more than 5 years in a particular place, right? Because it's taken all of me, it's used up all of me, and I've left everything on the table in this work. And it has grown me and grown me and grown me and grown me. So there's no easy answer. There's no right answer. Should you keep going? Should you say, I accept this isn't working and I'm going to do something else? No one can tell you that but you. And that's the work, right? And each time we go inside and we listen and we hear and we feel the impress, and sometimes we throw up our hands and we say, I don't know, I'm going to follow the path. And whatever the path is, for me the path led to ministry, raising a child in ministry in Dallas, Texas. So this is one of the reasons why I also take a month off in August, because I go to the mountains. Because I desperately, desperately need it, and the hotter it gets, the more my body, look, I'm Nordic. Can you not tell, I'm ridiculously Nordic? I didn't sweat for the first 5 or 8 years that I was here in Dallas. My body literally had to learn how to sweat. That's how ridiculously Nordic I am. I get sick when it's really hot. So I go away in August because it's just, but all of those things are a part of me really allowing this to grow me and allowing this to be the place where I'm expressing. And so it's a great question, and there's no right answer. There's only ever your answer. And yes, you have people you might talk it over with and bounce it with, and we do treatment and we can, right? But ultimately, it's our work. And there are disappointments along the way. Stuff does still happen. The big thing is it won't be stuff you've imagined. It won't be stuff you're making up or having happen because you're continually creating out of your old trauma. It won't be, 90% of the stuff will actually stop happening. But there is 10% of, right, there are hurricanes, there are floods, there are volcanoes, there are people we love do die, jobs we love do go away. So 10% of it is actually happening. And our spirituality then should give us resilience. I know how to manage myself. I know how to move through disappointment. I'm going to hold the vision of myself as this is actually going to help me in some way. I don't know how. There's good on the other side of it. I don't need to know what it is. Right? All of that is then our spiritual work that we can do. But please don't ever think that it was supposed to happen so that you could learn something. No, it is what happened. What can you learn from it? Do you see the difference? Super important. It is what happened. I'm now claiming good from it. Not, it had to happen so I could have my good. Because that means there's something outside of you directing your life. No. It's the law of cause and effect. Something caused this, here's the effect. What am I going to choose about it? What am I going to do about it? So our spirituality not only creates and manifests, but it gives us the resilience to move through what is manifesting if it's not exactly how we envisioned it or what we imagined. Or, we do have bumps. Some of them are pebbles. Some of them are boulders. Some of them are mountains. Yeah, they don't go away completely. Because, if all of that goes away, our life just becomes flat. It just is flat. And we want to be alive, which may mean that we tried to climb the mountain and we couldn't make it to the top. Yeah, but at least you tried. You didn't say that stand at the bottom, go, oh, I'll never make it, turn around and walk away. You'll have missed the whole process of climbing the mountain and all that came with that and the views that you got along the way, even if you didn't make it to the top. Do you see? It's about our lives. It's about our lives, not necessarily any particular thing that we're manifesting or creating. So I hope that helps you a little bit, Tammy. I hope that helps everybody. And it's so good for you to ask these questions, right? We make a mistake if we think there are easy answers. Well, just what's in your consciousness. Just clean up your consciousness and it will all work. Oh, please. Right? We want to have a mature, grown-up spirituality. We want to have compassion for ourselves, compassion for each other, and do the best we can. We're almost out of time. Do we have anything online?
Well, I want to go here into the room. We'll do the one last question over here into the room.
Oh, sorry. Good. Say your name.
My name is Jamesa. I didn't really have a question, but I did want to share with her my experience.
Good.
Because
Please do.
When you asked the question, I was like, oh yeah, I experienced that. But I think in my experience, I have manifested a lot of things in my experience before I found out it had a name. You know what I mean? So I was just doing the work myself. But when you asked that question, I had been down that road before, and I think the things that I was trying to manifest was for a group of people, my family, my children, people outside of myself.
Yes.
And I had to come to the realization, I don't know if it was spirit, I don't know the name of it, but I didn't obtain those things because I wanted them in the best interest of everybody else outside of myself. Like myself was fulfilled. I had everything, manifested everything that I wanted, but the greater things that I wanted to manifest were for my children, my grandchildren, people around me. And it was like something came to me and said, not yet. Because I was thinking, I'm like, dang, I'm really good at manifesting stuff. Like, why is this not happening? But I was trying to manifest for other people outside of myself that were not ready or not doing the work. So I'm trying to push something or manifest something. Like if I was to say, oh, I want to win the lottery so everybody around me will have a good life. Well, that's not what everybody else is needing at that time. So it was like frustrating to me because I couldn't manifest the things that I wanted to help other people.
Right.
So like you were saying, yeah, we could manifest a thing in a moment. You know what I mean? But when we start manifesting outside of ourselves for other people, they have to do the work themselves too. Yeah. So I can't just get something and give it to somebody because they may not be able to handle that situation.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly
right.
right.
So like even my sons, I want to, make sure that they're good and this and that, but they have families, and maybe what I want for them is not what their journey is.
Yeah, it's not what they want.
So I can't manifest it right now because I would infringe on their journey.
Yes.
So I had to understand that. I don't know if it makes sense.
Totally.
But I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm so good at this thing. Like, why is it not coming? And when it came to me, it's like, you're trying to, like, infringe on somebody else's journey. Like, they have to do the work like you did the work. And it took me, like, 8 years to do the work. I had to go away from my family, to work on. I didn't know I was working on myself, but I was looking for something.
Right.
And I had to leave Texas to get there. And when I left and I started doing whatever type of work it is, it was just like some things I just think about and I'm like, Florence Scovel, I never heard of this lady, but stuff was just coming to me and I was doing my own work. So when I came back home, I was like ready, like I got this and I did this and everybody else around me and my children, I'm like, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like I just broke, but I was infringing my journey on my children, my family or whatever, because they weren't ready. So maybe sometimes when we want something to show up, it's not about us. It may be around, around our circle. You know what I mean? That we can't have that manifest at the time because Lord knows if I was to get something, I'm going to share it with somebody else. And maybe I'm infringing on their journey. If that makes sense, I don't know.
Yes, it does. Absolutely, no question about it. And it may also not so much be infringing on their journey as that when we are doing something, there has to and it impacts other people. There also has to be an acceptance right, on other people's parts. And if that, there's been a number of things that I've put myself out for, and then realized, oh, they are so not ready for me. No, that was really good for that not to work out. In retrospect, it was really good for that not to work out, because that would have been a nightmare, right? And so these are the things we don't know, and it's really beautiful. Thank you so much. I do want to say this is our last Sunday for our beautiful artist, Priscilla. She's from Zimbabwe, so do check it out today. This is our last day, and then this week we get a new artist. We love doing our Science Mind class here in our art gallery. We have a new artist every month. If you have art that you want to share, Linda Matthews is our person, and I see that our sign didn't get put back together after our big party last night, so I'll make sure that it gets put out so you know who to talk to. We do have Julia here to welcome anybody who's here for the first time. So I think we do have some first-timers. So Julia is going to give you a gift, and we'd love for you to have it. So if you want to pass it out. Do we have other newcomers here? Some newcomers right here. So let us say hello, and she'll also show you around. We're in the sanctuary in 25 minutes. Peter could stop talking. And so love being with you. I will miss you for the month of August, but I will be back in September, and Dr. Tracy will be here. Did you have something that you wanted to say, or were you just saying, could you please stop talking?
Well, I don't want to be rude, Petra. No, I was just mentioning for the folks that are online too, we do not want to leave you out, so we actually have an online card that you can fill out as well if you want to stay in touch with us digitally and spiritually, right? So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yes, please do fill out the online connection card as well. And we love you, and we love you, and we love you, and have a fabulous week. Thank you so much. Bye for now.